It was after midnight when I finally left my friend's house to drive home. I was exhausted, but caffeine would have to get me through the long, dark stretch of rural highway ahead. I'd be lucky to pass more than a handful of cars along the way. The radio played low as I drove, my eyes glued to the road. I'd been on this route 100 times before, but something felt uneasy tonight. Maybe just fatigue playing tricks on me, I thought. I turned the music up to shake the nervous energy. Out of nowhere, a figure appeared in my headlights on the side of the road. I slammed the brakes, heart racing. But no one was there. Just my mind playing tricks on me, I realized with relief. I tried to refocus, but couldn't escape the prickly sense I was no longer alone on this deserted highway. Checking the rearview mirror, I saw a lone pair of headlights approaching fast behind me. My unease grew as the car drew closer, its high beams blinding. I sped up, only for the vehicle to accelerate and tailgate me aggressively. My heart pounded. I didn't recognize the make of the car, only that it pursued me relentlessly. I took a sharp turn down an unlit side road, the mysterious car following close on my heels around every harrowing curve. The beams never once left my rear view as I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles white. Then suddenly, the road came to a rickety steel bridge hemmed in by old trees. I had no choice but to cross. Bracing myself, I inched forward. Making it halfway across the narrow bridge, my whole body went cold. The car was now idling directly in my path on the other side, waiting for me. I froze for a terrifying second that felt like an eternity. Then I slammed the gear shift into reverse and hit the gas. Fishtailing back off the bridge, I spun the wheel and sped into the protective cover of the woods. That thing, whatever sinister presence had pursued me, vanished as quickly as it appeared. I drove on back roads the rest of the way home, constantly checking for any followers. But the night around me remained still once more. Even so, I knew deep down that I had glimpsed something wicked lurking out there in the darkness. And it would be waiting the next nightfall for whoever dared cross its path.
It was well past midnight as I drove home along the deserted rural highways. I had fallen asleep at a late study session and was now the only car around for miles. The radio played softly, keeping me company through the pitch darkness. Up ahead, a hitchhiker stood along the side of the road, barely visible under the moonlight. As I approached, he waved his arm for me to stop. Something about his silhouette sent a chill through me, and I drove on past him. Soon after, I noticed headlights behind me, approaching fast. The car sped dangerously close before backing off and continuing to follow close behind. My pulse quickened. There were no other turns to take out here. The high beams flashed suddenly, blinding me. I sped up, but the vehicle stayed on my tail, always matching my speed. Then it swerved out and scraped the side of my car with a shower of sparks. Panicked now, I floored it down the winding road. The pursuer kept perfect pace, trying to run me off the pavement at every tight curve. Up ahead, I spotted a small gap in the trees, a hidden dirt road. I turned sharply, tires skidding in the gravel. The narrow road was barely wide enough for one car. Overgrown trees scratched the doors as I squeezed through, praying I'd lost the other driver. But soon, two bright orbs appeared behind me once again. The road ended abruptly at the edge of a deep forest. I cut the engine and lights, watching as the vehicle approached slowly, then idled at the tree line. My breath froze in terrified silence. After an agonizing pause, the car turned and drove back the way it came. I waited until sunrise to leave, driving aimlessly until I reached a crowded town, flooded with relief. But I'll never forget that malicious presence pursuing me in the night, toying with me like prey. And I'll always wonder if that was the same hitchhiker I passed. His vengeance for denying him a ride, a decision that will haunt me forever.
It was a moonless night when I set out on the long drive home through the countryside. I had stayed late in the city and was now utterly alone on the pitch-black rural roads. A heavy fog had rolled in, limiting my visibility to just a few feet ahead. I slowed to a crawl, white-knuckling the steering wheel to stay focused through the soup-like conditions. The absence of light and muffled silence around me set my nerves on edge. Out of the gloom, a silhouette materialized ahead on the roadside. As I approached, I could make out the shadowy shape of a woman in a long, flowing dress waving for me to stop. Every instinct told me to drive on, but as I passed, she let out an ear-piercing wail that reverberated through the fog. I froze with my foot on the accelerator, heart seized by an icy grip. Peering into the rear-view mirror, I could see her pursuing relentlessly down the road, her cries growing nearer no matter how fast I drove. The mournful keen surrounded my car as the veiled woman glided unnaturally fast through the haze. No matter how far I went or how sharply I turned, she stayed right on my heels, her sheet-white face now becoming visible as she drew closer. I muttered prayers under my breath, pushing the gas pedal to the floor, flying blind into the void ahead. Still, her wails pierced through the night just over my shoulder. I abandoned all reason, no longer in control. Suddenly, my car jolted violently, slamming into something and lurching to a stop. Hyperventilating, I searched the darkness. No one was there. No woman. Only the lonely road continuing on ahead. I drove on in dazed silence until I reached home. Later, I learned that a woman in white had wandered into the road nearby that very night, only to disappear by morning. Her ghost, they say, is still out there roaming the foggy back roads, forever chasing.
It was close to midnight when I set out alone to drive home through the forested back roads. A heavy rain had begun falling, making it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead between swipes of the windshield wipers. I leaned forward, squinting into the stormy darkness, trying to keep my tires on the winding pavement. The downpour drowned out any other sounds besides my own nervous breaths. I hadn't passed another car for miles on this desolate stretch. Suddenly, something darted into my high beams, too quick for me to make out what it was. I slammed the brakes, heart pounding. My car fishtailed on the slick road before screeching to a halt. Peering out cautiously, I saw only darkness. Shaken, I eased back onto the road, scanning the rain-soaked landscape for any sign of movement. Just when I managed to calm myself, a light appeared behind me, gaining speed. I accelerated, but the headlights followed closely. I took a sharp turn down an unpaved side road, branches scraping the doors on both sides. But the flashing light stayed fixed right behind me, our lone vehicle speeding perilously into the untamed backcountry. The gravel road ended at an overturned semi-trailer, blocking my path. No way around it. I shifted gears into reverse, just as the pursuer emerged from the trees, cutting me off. Trapped between the wreck and my follower, I killed the engine and lights. My breath froze as an unmarked van idled before me. After an excruciating pause, it slowly pulled forward, circling like an animal toys with prey. When it passed by my driver's side, I glimpsed the outline of figures within. Suddenly, lights flooded the scene from the road behind me. A park ranger's vehicle. The van hastily retreated into the forest. I left with the ranger, shaken by my encounter with those menacing strangers. But I know they're still roaming that dark wilderness, stalking the next unlucky traveler